Watch this generated clip. What begins as a solid, dynamic shot of a character running starts to mutate, quickly warping into an unrecognizable mess. This happens when we ask the AI to figure out the scene as it generates, rather than executing a pre-existing plan. The fastest way to lose control of an AI film is to start generating too early. You get an idea, you feel that creative momentum, you open a tool, and you start chasing visuals. It feels productive, but that momentum is exactly how drift enters your project. When you let the tool's aesthetic outputs dictate your direction, every single generation subtly redefines what your story is actually about. To fix this, we use the generate last principle. The rule is absolute. You do not generate final assets until you can cut the scene on paper. By delaying that initial gratification and holding off on final renders, you lock in your editorial intent. You stop exploring aimlessly, and you start executing a predictable, controlled vision. This diagram illustrates a core limitation of AI. It has the memory of a goldfish. Every time you submit a prompt, it only responds to that latest request and completely forgets your broader intent for the sequence. To secure authority over a tool that constantly forgets, we use the pre-gen checklist. Answering its 5 questions before generating is mandatory. Question 1. What is the scene's job? Every scene must do one primary thing, whether establishing a location, revealing a secret, or escalating tension. Write down a single sentence. This scene exists to do X. If a generated shot doesn't serve that sentence, it is noise, no matter how beautiful. Question 2. What must stay consistent? List strict requirements like character identity, wardrobe, or lighting direction. You achieve visual stability by strictly limiting variables, not by demanding perfection. Question 3. What can change without breaking the scene? Identify details you aren't precious about. These act as pressure valves, giving the AI necessary room to breathe. Question 4. What shots do you actually need? Restrict your list to the absolute minimum required to cut the scene together, usually an establishing shot, medium shot, and reaction. Question 5. Where can you cut early? Design your escape hatches in advance. Identify exactly when you can exit a shot before its internal physics break or the motion degrades. When you know a shot only needs to survive a 1.5 seconds, you stop discarding generations that warp at 3 seconds. Your usable asset acceptance rate will skyrocket. Answering these 5 questions completely guarantees every pixel you generate serves a rigid structural purpose, rather than adding to a pile of pretty, useless noise. Now that we have a structural blueprint, we move into the editing software. This is where abstract plans turn into a physical, timing-accurate sequence. Step 1 is building a rough timeline. Drop in a temporary music track and use basic text slug parts, like wide shot 3 seconds, to map out your planned sequence. Step 2 is layering in rudimentary placeholders. You can use rough sketches, quick reference images, or just colored blocks. The sequential logic matters here. Beauty does not. Watching an active timeline play out in real time instantly reveals pacing flaws. You spot dragging moments or confusing cuts earlier than you would by just reading a script. Step 3 requires brutal trimming. Aggressively cut the lengths of those placeholder clips. AI encourages visual indulgence, and your job is to resist it right now, while it is cheap to fix. Step 4 is declaring the lock. Once the animatic plays cleanly, you lock the timing and the shot order. From this exact moment forward, all generation serves the edit. It is common to feel like this restricts creativity, but in reality, it funds it. Improvise inside this locked structure, and your improvisation becomes usable material instead of a destructive detour. Shifting your generation process until after this timeline lock ensures that you maintain absolute editorial authority over tools that are inherently unpredictable. You have now evolved from relying on random prompt exploration to executing a highly precise, structurally sound visual shopping list. Because AI always forgets your intent, the locked animatic remembers it, anchoring the project when the tool's outputs fluctuate. Your assignment today is to build a 60-second animatic using only text slugs and temp audio. You are strictly forbidden from generating any final visual assets for it. Once you finish, type the word locked in the comments below. It's a small psychological commitment, but public accountability finishes films. True cinematic style requires this exact structural discipline. In the next video, we'll use the Style Bible framework to map complete visual consistency onto the timeline you just locked.